Live NFL trivia every Wednesday night on Twitch at 9 p.m. Eastern. Come show off your football knowledge for a chance to win cash prizes. Check the link in the description to find out more. And now, on with our feature presentation. There have been plenty of iconic performances to take place in the postseason in the wake of an injury. You had Buffalo Bills defensive back Bill Simpson recording the game-winning interception at the end of the 1981 wildcard round against the New York Jets after suffering a concussion and supposedly not having any recollection of the play. You had Denver Broncos running back Terrell Davis famously guide his team to their first Super Bowl win in franchise history by running for 157 yards and 3 touchdowns, all while suffering a migraine. You had Pittsburgh Steelers defensive end Dwight White getting hospitalized and nearly losing his life days before Super Bowl IX against the Minnesota Vikings, only to come back and not only play in the game, but record the first points of the game after sacking Fran Tarkenton in the end zone on a safety. You can learn more about that by clicking the card in the upper right corner. And I could go on and on about some of these incredible and iconic performances in the face of adversity. But here's one that you might not know about that might have been the gutsiest one of them all when it comes to the history of the wildcard round. And oddly enough, it came during the first ever wildcard round. This is Houston Oilers quarterback Dan Pastorini. Prior to the 1978 wildcard game against the Miami Dolphins, Pastorini was hurting pretty badly. He had multiple serious injuries, was beaten up from the previous week, and many wondered not just if he was going to play, but how effective he could possibly be. And not only did he guide the Oilers to a win, but he played arguably the best game of his career at the time. This is the story behind Dan Pastorini and the gutsiest performance in the history of the wildcard round. Before I talk about the performance in question, we need some context to understand just who Dan Pastorini is, how he was doing on the season, and how severe his injuries were prior to this game. And oddly enough, this is not the first video I've done on Dan Pastorini and his time with the 1978 Oilers. Let's just say that Pastorini did not exactly start the season off on the right foot, as he had such a problem with his offensive coordinator and the coaching staff that shortly after a Week 4 loss to the Los Angeles Rams, he quit the team. If you want to learn more about that incredibly crazy situation, click the card in the upper right corner. However, eventually, everything got resolved, especially after the Oilers fired offensive coordinator Ken Shipp. And from that point on, the Oilers became a very good team. Following a 2-2 start where they had somewhat of a lethargic offense, things picked up tremendously over the next 2.5 months. After being 3-3 through 6 weeks, the Oilers proceeded to win 7 of their next 9 games. There were many reasons for this turnaround, from a stout defensive line featuring future Hall of Famers like Curly Culp and Elvin Bethea, to the incredible play of rookie running back Earl Campbell, who not only won Offensive Rookie of the Year, but Offensive Player of the Year as well. However, the play of Dan Pastorini cannot be overlooked either. In the 11 games immediately following the firing of Ken Shipp as the offensive coordinator, Pastorini posted a passer rating of 74.4, which would have ranked 8th in the NFL, and was on pace to throw 16 touchdowns, which also would have ranked 8th in the NFL. By no means was Pastorini a great quarterback, but he was a solid guy who could get the job done when needed, including a great performance against the New England Patriots, where after trailing 23-0, the Oilers came back to win it 26-23, with Pastorini throwing the game-winning touchdown pass in the fourth quarter to Rich Castor. And the 1978 season turned out to be an incredibly successful one for the Oilers. Entering the final week of the season, after beating the New Orleans Saints by a final score of 17-12 in a game where Pastorini posted a passer rating of 107.9, which was his highest of the season, the Oilers had officially clinched a spot in the postseason. It was the first time that the postseason would consist of 5 teams in each conference, as 1978 was the first year that 2 wildcards were implemented, and the Oilers took full advantage of this. For the first time since Bum Phillips became the head coach, and for the first time since 1969, which was before the merger, the Houston Oilers were in the playoffs. They were looking to enter the playoffs on an incredibly high note. Instead, what followed was a near disaster. December 17, 1978. It's Week 16 in the NFL season, and we have a critical matchup on our hands between the Houston Oilers and the San Diego Chargers. The Chargers have nothing to play for outside of wanting to finish with a winning record, as they sit at 8-7. However, for the Oilers, this is a massive game. As things stand, the Oilers and Dolphins are both tied at 10-5, and they are locked into playing each other in the postseason. However, the Oilers own the head-to-head tiebreaker thanks to their 35-30 win on Monday Night Football in Week 12. This means that if the Oilers beat the Chargers, then for the first time since 1962, and for the first time since the Astrodome opened up, they will be hosting a playoff game. The bad news for the Oilers was that they could not win, as the Chargers prevailed quite easily, winning at 45-24 thanks to 4 touchdown passes by eventual Hall of Fame quarterback Dan Fouts. The even worse news for the Oilers was that in the fourth quarter, starting quarterback Dan Pastorini, who had not missed a single offensive snap all season, got hurt. The play is not available on film and is considered to be lost media. However, on the play, Pastorini took off running after Earl Campbell blew his assignment and missed an audible. The play left Pastorini with an injured right knee, along with a severe aggravation of previous injuries, including a sore elbow, an ankle strain, and 3 cracked ribs. Every part of Pastorini's body was hurt. As Pastorini said on the play that knocked him out, "I turned to run, and when I cut back, I got hit on the knee from both sides." And just to highlight how severe the injury was, Pastorini had to be under anesthesia while being examined for his knee. He spent 2 days in the hospital, which is obviously not ideal when your starting quarterback is so badly beaten up that he has to spend multiple days there. He did not practice all week, so he did not receive a single rep after the injury. And along with a plethora of problems he was already dealing with, he was going to have to deal with the added problem of rust if he somehow wound up playing in this game. And he had to wear a brace and a flak jacket, which he said was the equivalent of a bulletproof shield that the police wear. However, against seemingly all the odds, he was going to try and play in this game. He was going to tough it out. And to say he did that would be a massive understatement.
Entering the AFC Divisional Playoff game against Miami, Houston quarterback Dan Pastorini had to participate with bruised ribs, a wrenched knee, a sprained ankle, and a swollen elbow. A walking digest of medical maladies held together with miles of tape.
In Pastorini's mind, there was never a doubt that he was going to play in this game. Even when he was in serious pain, when asked about his status for the game, Pastorini bluntly responded by saying, "I'll start. I always do." Again, he was dealing with a sore elbow, an injured knee, 3 broken ribs, and a sore ankle. Other than that, he was totally fine. And perhaps the most remarkable part about all of this is that according to Pastorini, the reason he was able to play was because of a random encounter he had on the streets in Houston. Pastorini, by a chance encounter, noticed a man on the street who was wearing a jacket to protect himself. Pastorini saw the jacket and wanted to see how effective it was. To demonstrate this, a friend who was with this random stranger started pounding him with a baseball bat, and the stranger felt no pain. I have so many questions that are unanswered about this thing. After that incident though, Pastorini said, "I want one of those." This was how he was going to play on Sunday in the wildcard game. Still, he was in immense pain, but at least he had a means now to tough it out in a logistical manner. And with that, we head to the Orange Bowl. It's Christmas Eve 1978, and the Oilers are traveling to Miami to take on the Dolphins in the first ever AFC wildcard game. The Oilers enter this game as massive underdogs. The Dolphins are favored by 6.5 points. The Dolphins have won 10 of their last 11 at home and 13 of their last 15 dating back to the start of the 1977 season, and the Dolphins have never lost a playoff game at home, winning all 4 times they played at the Orange Bowl. It was going to take a lot, especially for an injured Pastorini, for the Oilers to pull this one off. And it was going to take a lot more since the usually reliable Earl Campbell, who again was the Offensive Player of the Year and was widely regarded as a rookie as the best player in the sport, had an uncharacteristically bad game. After running for 199 yards and 4 touchdowns when the teams met in the regular season, he was held to just 84 yards on 3.2 yards per carry, with just 16 rushing yards in the first half. If the Oilers were going to pull off the upset, it was going to fall squarely on the shoulders of Dan Pastorini. And sure enough, he did just that. After the Dolphins jumped out to a 7-0 lead in the first quarter on a 13-yard touchdown pass by Bob Griese to Andre Tillman, the Oilers immediately responded when Pastorini hit Tim Wilson from 13 yards out to tie the game at 7 apiece. Pastorini entered the game hoping that he would only have to throw a maximum of 15 passes total. He wound up throwing 16 in the first half alone. And the crazy part is that despite all those injuries, Pastorini, who completed a modest 54.1% of his passes in the regular season, was extremely accurate. On Pastorini's first 14 passes, he completed 12 of them, and these were passes that went down the field. By the time the first half ended, he was already at over 200 yards passing. And fortunately for Oilers fans, Pastorini was not done yet. He was just getting started. The Oilers were playing significantly better football than the Dolphins and were the dominant side all day. They even outgained the Dolphins 459 to 209 in total yardage, more than doubling their total. And their defense was lights out. They forced 5 turnovers, and Dolphins starting quarterback Bob Griese went 11 for 28 with just 114 yards passing, 2 interceptions, and a passer rating of 33.9. Which is worse than if he did nothing but spike the ball to the ground on every single play. As a side note, to learn more about the career of Bob Griese, click the card in the upper right corner. Still, the game was tied at 7 apiece in the fourth quarter. That's when Pastorini and company truly took over, as with some nice throws, the Oilers were able to get into a position to score, and eventually score 10 straight to take a 17-7 lead. Pastorini took an intentional safety late in the fourth, as the Oilers prevailed by a final score of 17-9, winning their first playoff game since the 1961 AFL Championship. As for how Pastorini played on the day, he was nothing short of superb. Not only was he superb from an individual standpoint, but he was superb from a historical standpoint as well. By the time the game ended, Pastorini went 20 for 29, completing a very nice 69% of his passes. He threw for 306 yards and a touchdown while not throwing any interceptions and while posting a passer rating of 115. For some perspective on how good that was, the 20 completed passes were the most completions he had in a game all year. The completion percentage was the highest it was all year. The 306 yards passing were the most he had in a game all year. And the passer rating of 115 was the highest it was all year. When the light shone on him the brightest in the biggest stage of the season, Pastorini had his best game of the year by a lot, and did it with all those aforementioned injuries. But amazingly enough, it gets even better. When considering the games that Pastorini threw at least 15 passes, at the time, this game against the Dolphins was his second highest completion percentage ever, and was his highest completion percentage ever in a winning effort, as the only other time he did this was when he completed 77% of his passes in a 48-20 loss to the Denver Broncos in 1973. His 306 yards passing was the third highest total of his career at the time, and was the highest total of his career in a winning effort. In fact, it was the first time ever that he threw for over 300 yards in a win. And from the overall historical context, he made history. His performance was historically good. At the time, in the near 60-year history of the NFL, there had only been one quarterback to throw for 300 yards in a playoff game while completing at least 68% of his passes, throwing at least one touchdown pass, and throwing no interceptions. That player, Dan Pastorini. And after the game, all the talk was about his remarkable efforts in a remarkable victory. Pastorini played through the pain like an absolute champ. He said after the game that the rest in the hospital did him good, that he has a tendency to heal fast, and that once he gets on the field, he doesn't feel the pain. The adrenaline just takes over at that point. And everyone agreed that Pastorini's incredible performance was the main reason that the Oilers won the game, with Earl Campbell saying Pastorini's passes were responsible for that. As long as we were moving the ball, the end zone was going to hit us in the face sooner or later. Even though Pastorini only threw one touchdown pass, his impact on the game, especially with his ability to play smart football and work the ball down the field when needed, was huge. Thanks to Pastorini, the Oilers won their next playoff game after going into New England to knock off the Patriots. And while just about everyone agreed that Pastorini's game against the Dolphins was the best game of his career at the time, 1 week later, everyone forgot about that game because of what he was able to do against New England. In that game, which the Oilers won 31-14, he completed 80% of his passes, posted a passer rating of 130.6, and threw 3 touchdown passes in the first half, as the Oilers led 24-0 at one point. He played so well in that game to send the Oilers to the AFC Championship that it sort of made this game against the Dolphins get forgotten more than 40 years later. Still, what Pastorini did on this day in the wildcard round was nothing short of remarkable. Pastorini had no business playing in this game, none whatsoever, as every part of his body was injured. He spent multiple days in the hospital recovering, and he didn't step foot on the practice field all week. His lone hope to playing was a jacket that he saw a random stranger wear on the street, in the hopes that it would work. And he was going up against an established Dolphins team that was a force to be reckoned with at the Orange Bowl, all while he was trying to carry his team to their first playoff win in 2 decades, since his running game was completely invisible. And Dan Pastorini did just that, and then some. Considering the circumstances, what Dan Pastorini did on Christmas Eve in 1978 might be the gutsiest performance in the history of the wildcard round. Get your official Jaguar Gator 9 merchandise by going to jg9shop.com, and be sure to like this video, ring the notification bell, subscribe down below if you haven't already, as it helps the channel out a lot, and be sure to check out Twitch every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern for your chance to play NFL Trivia and win cash prizes, link in the description below. If you want to see videos like this condensed down to 60 seconds, then follow me on TikTok at JaguarGator9, and subscribe to 60-Second NFL History on YouTube. To see highlight videos of players throughout the history of the NFL, subscribe to JG9 Highlights. Also, special thanks to all of our Patreon supporters for helping out the channel. Your support is greatly appreciated. See how you can become a patron and request future video topics in the description below.